بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين المتقين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. This is the continuation of Wasil Darusana fi Musanif Imam Abdur Razaaq الصنعاني رحمه الله تعالى وما زلنا في ماذا مسألة مسح نعم على خفين وعلى جرابين وعلى نعلين. We're still with the issue in the chapter of wiping over not just the what we call khufs, the leather moccasins or the shoe footwear, but also socks and sandals. But inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala, before we start, I want to mention some other issues of fiqh that are very beneficial around the issue of the salah, And this is from a question that was asked, very important question. After my research, I thought it would be very beneficial to mention from time to time. So the question was asked, is it permissible in the salat that's considered salatu jahriya? Jahra means loud, where you can hear it. So the question is it permissible to, in the salat that's supposed to be audible, loud, like for example Fajr, وَكَذَلِكَ الْمَغْرِبُ وَالْإِشَاء, to read sirran, to read inaudible? Is it permissible in the salat that's supposed to be salatul jahriya, out loud, to read it in a way that nobody hears you? I don't like to say silent, because in Arabic, if you say silent, sakit, that means the person doesn't move their lips at all. And the ulama, they said, al-kalam fi lugha huwa yani as-sawt, it is a voice, الصوت يجتمل مع هجاء حروف هجائية. It said that speech in the Arabic language is considered a voice, meaning that you can hear, somebody can hear it. The one who's saying it, or the people who are next to him, somebody has to hear that voice, and the voice must be comprised of the Arabic letters. So when we say silent in English, that also includes that the one who's praying doesn't hear himself. His mouth is closed. Sakit in Arabic means la yataharrak, you don't move. So I like to say what people have traditionally said, praying silent. I don't say that. I say praying inaudible, meaning nobody can hear you, but you should hear yourself, like you mumble to yourself on a low tone. So Salatul Jahriya, which they have said the loud salat, where you can hear, others can hear, is it permissible to pray that salat inaudible? That which people would normally say silent, meaning others don't hear it. It said, and this is the opposite of what the Prophet used to do when he used to make some things heard in the salat that's supposed to be inaudible. Sometimes he would mention parts of it. But here they're asking, is it permissible to pray a salat that is supposed to be out loud, all of it, where you don't hear it, and is it vice versa, a salat that normally should be inaudible, you don't hear it to make it heard? So the Shaykh, he mentioned in reference to what the Prophet said, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli, in opposition to that hadith. Can you switch it up? Pray what's supposed to be heard, unheard, and what's supposed to be unheard, heard. While the Prophet says, Sallu, pray, kama ra'aytumuni, as you all have seen me just demonstrate, yani the salah. So Shaykh, he mentions the answer. He said, some of the scholars, the issue, ذهب بعض أهل العلم. Some scholars go and take the position of that is wujub. What's wujub? That if the salat is supposed to be jahra, yajhar. If it's supposed to be heard out loud, do that. And if the salat, likewise, is sirriyan, unheard, then make it unheard to the people. He said, لكن, however, ثبتا عن الصحابة, but it has been verified narrations that the Sahaba did the following. أنهم كانوا يجهرون ببعض ما يسروا به. That the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, they used to make a loud or something heard that normally you wouldn't hear. For example, if they're praying a salat that's supposed to be inaudible, they would let certain parts be heard, certain parts. Now note the Shaykh is saying certain parts because the question is asked all of it. Is it permissible to pray like that? So the Shaykh is mentioning the narrations of the Sahaba, what they used to do, in this case. He said, for Umar can yajhar. So Umar, for example, used to say out loud in the prayer there should be an audible dua istiftah. So for example, when you start the prayer, you say Allahu Akbar. You don't just go into Al-Fatiha. You should say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim before you read any Quran. Then of course you have Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the part of Al-Fatiha or not, that issue. But you have dua istiftah. You should make some dua before you go into Al-Fatiha, as the Prophet used to do. So Umar would make that part loud. For example, he would say Allahu Akbar is dhuhr. He would say Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa tabaraka ismuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruka. Or he would say Allahumma Jibril wa Mikail wa Israfil fatir as-samawati wal ard anta tahkumu bayna ibadika fima kanu fihi yakhtalifun اهدني لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنه إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. Those are what's called, for example, dua istiftah. So Umar would make that part out loud in a salat that's supposed to be totally siriyan, silent, or as we said, inaudible, for those who don't like to use that term because it doesn't fit the Arabic definition. He said, well, Abu Hurairah jahra bi Fatiha. And Abu Hurairah, whenever he read in any salat, he would read al-Fatiha out loud. So why can't sihriyan or jahriyan? Whether it was inaudible salat, or again, such as Dhuhr Asr, he would make you, allow you, he would read where you heard his al-Fatiha, Abu Hurairah. And Abdullah ibn Abbas كان جهرا الفاتحة ماذا في صلاة الجنازة. And Abu Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhum jami'an, may Allah please all of them, whenever he prayed janazah, he would pray the janazah and read the al-Fatiha out loud. As far as the dua of the Prophet and the second takbirah and the dua for the deceased, the third takbirah. And if you take the position of a fourth, there's no mention that he said those things out loud. Amma al-Fatiha, he used to mention al-Fatiha out loud in Salatul Janazah. So the reason these parts are being mentioned, it shows that the Sahaba understood the hadith of the Prophet, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli, pray as you see me pray. They understood it differently than those people that say you have to keep what's inaudible with the inaudible salat, and you have to keep what's out loud with the out loud salat. Sahaba here showing a different understanding. So Shaykh Uthman Qamis from Kuwait, he says, so all of this proves that the reason the Sahaba displayed these different acts with the salat, they want to show you bayinu anna kulla hadhi sa'a. All of this is a broad spectrum. It's not narrow to just one way. So some scholars again said it's wajib to keep the silent or the inaudible with the inaudible salat, and to make the heard, the loud with the loud salat. Others said it's sunnah to do that. And Imam al-Nawawi, Naqala, he mentions the statements of the ulama concerning this Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, that is ijma'. Ijma' means everybody agrees. I know you Jews, Isra, fi Salat Jahriya, that it is permissible to read, inaudible for a loud salat. Inaudible for a loud salat. It's permissible for a loud salat, such as again Fajr, Maghrib, Isha, to read it unheard. And it's permissible to read Jahra fi Salat Sihriya, and to read out loud in the salat that's supposed to be unheard, such as Ad-Dhuhr wal Asr. هذا نقل الإمام النووي عن أنه إجماع أنه يجوز that that it's permissible to do this one that way and that one this way. Now, he said, لكن في مذهب Imam Ahmed, however, in the madhab of Imam Ahmed, he said, هناك قول بوجوب. Imam Ahmed has in his teachings and his students that is wajib to keep, as we said, the sihriyan, that which is inaudible with the audible salat, and that which is jahriya, out loud with the out loud salat. He said, but also there is a statement in his teachings called fi madhab annahu mustahab, it is recommended to keep them with one another. So Imam Ahmed has in his teachings and his students, there's two positions in the madhab of Imam Ahmed. Wajib, keep the out loud with the out loud salat and the inaudible with the inaudible salat. Then you have the second statement that it is mustahab, recommended. If you go to the side of recommended, then that indicates that reading the salat, reading in the salat, pardon me, now it becomes the issue of if this is rukn or not. If it's rukn, a pillar, or if it's ghayr rukn. If it's not rukn here means pillar, then that means you have some room to do it this way or that way. Only if it was a pillar, then you could not change it. And that some scholars have taken the position that you can't change it because the Prophet said, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli, pray the way you see me pray. And we don't have the Prophet sallam doing it that way. But if you look at what's rukn, what's a pillar, what's not a pillar, then obviously speaking, the Sahaba understood the recitation itself, whether it's out loud or not, isn't a pillar. That part is sunnah, so you are able to do it this way or that way. While doing it is what's a pillar. When you talk about Al-Fatiha, it's a pillar. You have to read it. Whether others hear it or don't hear it, you have to read it. As for making it not heard when it should be heard, typically, and making it silent making it silent when it should be heard, and making it heard when it should be silent, then of course you see the Sahaba understood differently that this is allowed, because that part, the heard and not heard, is not rukn. The reading of it is pillar. Without the pillar, the salat is not proper. The salat is batil. But the making it heard and not heard, then mustahab, because some of them have understood that it is mada mustahab, as it is sunnah to make it heard and not heard, while to do it is from the pillar. And Shaykh, he says, as for the hadith of the Prophet, as for the statement of the Prophet, praise you have seen me pray, there's a lot of things that are considered mustahab in that statement itself. If you say the whole salat of the Prophet, pray just like you've seen the Prophet pray, then still the salat has to be broken down into what's an obligation, what's recommended. He says, for example, everything that's, beloved, this is the meaning of mustahabat. The Prophet did all of those things that are beloved. He said, and most of the scholars, and most of the scholars, when it comes to raising the hands, and we're not talking about the opening takbirah, talking about after you do like this, Allahu Akbar. Most of the scholars say to raise them at any other time isn't wajib. Why is the Shaykh saying this, Shaykh Uthman al-Qamis? Because that would mean that raising the hands, although the Prophet did it, you can pray without doing it, because it's not wajib, it's not rukn. It's what's considered mustahab, or what's considered sunan, meaning part of the worship. So if you look at it in that regard, then the recitation falls in that category too. Just like the raising of the hands is not wajib. Whether you read it out loud or not out loud is not wajib. Well, what's wajib is that you read it. Wajib is that you read it. Now, he said, while the Prophet used to be eager, and he was someone who was a person who was diligent in the issue of yarfa yaday. He used to raise the hands in a diligent way. He didn't sometimes raise them, sometimes not raise them. He always raised them. With the Prophet doing that, still, most of our ilm, many of them, if not all of them, none of them have said that raising the hands is wajib. If you don't raise the hands, salat is batil. If you don't raise the hands, you got to pray over. No. So this is one of the ways you understand Sadles kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Pray you see me, I pray. That is divided to what's wajib, meaning what is obligation. You have to keep it the way the Prophet did it. Some is divided to things that you do seeking to get the reward, and it's optional. If you do it, you'll be rewarded. If you don't, if you switch it up, you won't be punished. Wahakada. And nobody has said raising the hands is rukuniyah, that it's a pillar, al-wujub, or that it's an obligation. And that's with the, again, exception of takbiratul ihram. Many say that you have to do that in the beginning. As far as after that, when you go into ruku'ah, when you raise from ruku'ah, then this is what the Shaykh is talking about. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. So the Shaykh, in another question that's similar, he said, Al-Jahru wal-Isra Sunnah. To say an audible, this is Sunnah. Sunnah here, we understand that depending on who you are, what time you came in, what region you lived in, then you have a different basis for how you use the term sunnah. how you and where you came from, who you are. For example, Sahaba, they understood Sunnah sometime to mean the way of the Prophet. They understood Sunnah sometime to mean a custom of the Prophet. The Sahaba, sometime they understood Sunnah to mean the belief of the Prophet. The Sahaba understood sometimes Sunnah to mean the belief of the Prophet. Sometimes the Sahaba, they understood the word Sunnah to mean the approval of the Prophet from others. Sometimes the Sahaba understood Sunnah to mean the approval, the silent approval of the Prophet, of other actions. And sometimes the Sahaba, they understood Sunnah of the Prophet to mean he left something off. Sometimes the Sahaba, they understood Sunnah to mean that the Prophet left something off. So this shows you that Sunnah has different shades. And sometimes you'll find different Imams, like Imam Abi Hanifa, when he says Sunnah, it just means that it's a thing that the Prophet did, but it's not ibadah for us. It's a custom that the Prophet did. You don't have to do it. It's something the Prophet did, while his ordering you with the tongue is not considered Sunnah with the Hanafi madhab. Malikiya, Sunnah, yani is considered Mada Barakallahu Fikum Sunan Mu'akkada, yani something that is strongly stressed, like wajib, such as Imam Ahmed takes the same position. When they say Sunan, they mean wajib. You have to do it like farz. And when you talk about the Shafi'i, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, then he takes Sunnah to mean mustahabat, something that you do seeking to gain the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, of course, it's a recommended act because it's going to gain love of Allah azza wa jal. So you see Sunnah, depending on who you are, where you come from, what era, Sunnah could mean different things. So here, Shaykh Abi said, to say the Salah out loud or inaudible is Sunnah, meaning that you have the liberty to do either or, switch it up, because it's, again, from the previous question and answer, he made clear what's the difference between rukn, a pillar. You have to do it. Without it, the salat is batil and you don't change and mix and switch. Or what's wajib. If it's wajib, then you have no choice in the matter. Again, you can't change and switch as it relates to something that is sunan or something that is mustahabat, things that you do that you seek the love of Allah Azza wa Jal by doing it by choice, and there's a reward and no blame or punishment in that. Now, and the Shaykh, he's making now tafsilat clear, so no one misunderstands. He says, sir fi salat al-jahriyah, being inaudible in a salat that should be audible. And then he said, mithlu fajr, it should be out loud, but you don't pray it out loud. Maghrib wa isha. He said, what? Jahriyah fi salat wa jahru fi salat al-sihriya. And the salat that should be unheard, you make it heard. He said, mithlu salat al-dhuhr wa madha wal-asr. Now, mithlu salat al-dhuhr wa madha al-asr, such as dhuhr or asr. It said sunnah. It said, so if a person, walau jahara wahid fi salat al-sihriya, so if a person was to make his salat out loud in a salat that should be unheard, he said, aw asarra fi salat al-jahriya, or the opposite, he makes the salat unheard when it should be heard. He said, salat al-sahihah. Mada salatuhu, mada sahihah. His salat is good, it's correct, it's not wrong, it's not invalid, it doesn't have to pray over. He said, so if a person will pray, maghrib, silent, isha, silent, or maghrib out loud, dhuhr out loud, asr out loud, then it's okay, it's sahih, it's salah. He said, but here, it could be a problem for the people who don't know this. Yurbequ nas. He said, when it comes to doing that, purposely. If a mistake is made, that's one thing. But someone purposely doing that, you may pose a problem for people behind you if you're leading the salah. He said, for example, if you pray Maghrib and you decided to practice this way, you decided today I'm going to pray Maghrib and I'm going to make my recitation unheard to the people. He said, showing what would happen behind you, people will be behind you just standing, waiting for you to read, and they don't read. And for them, they didn't read Al-Fatiha, and they didn't hear you read Al-Fatiha. And the Shaykh said, so with regards to not reading Al-Fatiha, now we're talking about people behind the Imam. The Imam is going to choose today the practice order we just went over. Today he's going to switch it up because he believes it's Sunnah. He can do it. It's not wrong. The Salat will be good. And to make the Maghrib inaudible is okay. Sunnah, mustahab. To do it out loud. If you don't do it, there's no sin on you. He's going to switch it. If he does that and people behind him are waiting to hear him read Al-Fatiha, and they take the position that when you pray behind the Imam and it's a Salat that's audible, such as Fajr, Maghrib, and Isha, that they don't have to recite Al-Fatiha. That is a position in the madahib and some of the teachings based on certain hadith that some people take the position, as long as I'm behind the Imam and he's praying where I can hear him, I just be quiet, including Al-Fatiha. So if that person doesn't read Al-Fatiha and they don't hear you read Al-Fatiha, then for them, their salat won't be accepted because they have to hear you in order to not read it. Those people will take the position that the Imam's Al-Fatiha is for them. That's when they can hear him. If they can't hear him, then the default is they should be reciting Al-Fatiha. So you create a problem for those behind you if they don't know what you're doing. You do that purposely. They don't know the ruling. You don't tell them. Then they don't hear you, which means they should be reading. And they don't read, and now they don't have a salah. Whereas if they knew that issue, and they know I'm purposely going to not read out loud when I should be reading loud, then that gives them the opportunity to read their own Al-Fatiha, just if it was doing Asr. Now their Salat is Sahih, they don't have any sin on them, they didn't impose anything based upon these principles and the narrations of the Sahaba, and everybody's good. But if that Imam wanted to practice that, and he just did it, people will, number one, think he's making a mistake. Somebody might say Subhanallah, somebody might say Allahu Akbar. You create chaos. And moreover, they don't read Al-Fatiha, while the Imam he did, the people behind him don't have a salah. So the Shaykh has mentioned this point. And the Madhab Imam Malik and Ahmed, they are the ones who take the position, if the people behind the Imam don't read, that their salat is okay because the Imam Al-Fatiha is what they get credit for. And Imam Abi Hanifa and Imam Shafi take the opposite position. They said no matter if the Imam is heard or not, he reads Al-Fatiha or not, everybody has to read Al-Fatiha. This is the madhab of Imam Abi Hanifa and Imam Shafi'i. وذهب إليه إمام أبي عبد الرحمن مقبل هذا الوادي على أن قراءة الفاتحة سواء جهريا أو سريا على كل مأموم والإمام فرض عين على كله. that everybody has to read his own Al-Fatiha. Filan, for Salatul Batil. And if he does it, whether he's imam or not, whether it's out loud and audible, that salat is nullified. So this is why the Shaykh is mentioning that don't just practice this. You're going to create a big problem. Now, and even if it's from one perspective okay to do, don't leave the people in this type of situation. Except that people are taught, they understand, and then when you get ready to practice it, you must notify the people. I'm getting ready to do this so that they will have the ability to practice that which they should practice. Now, and the last thing which is connected to the issue, the ulama will ask, what is the hikmah? What is the sabab? What is the reason that we do this like this anyway? Outside of following the Nabi, what is the reason behind it? Why do we pray in the daytime, sirriyan, unheard, and at nighttime, jahriyan, out loud heard? Many ulama, they said, the hikmah min dhalik, the reason behind it is that in the daytime, people's minds and bodies are busy with working. Person's mind is on working. So if that person had to concentrate to pray out loud, maybe it will be more of a distraction. It will be harder for that person to have concentration to khushu' because his mind is busy with the worldly things while he's praying. So it helps him to concentrate. It helps her to concentrate, praying inaudible. Nobody has to focus and listen to the imam and keep up while his mind is on work and this and that. And at nighttime, work is normally over. And of course, we're talking about in societies where people work in the day and sleep at night. When I'm talking about now where people have first, second shift, maybe first, second shift, okay, but definitely people working overnight, no. So at nighttime, when it's Maghrib and Isha, things are a little more settled, then people could concentrate more. They need to have the Quran where they can hear it, the Sakina, they could really enjoy the tranquility and they can focus, because this is kind of what we say, the body winds down now. The hustle and bustle is over. So this is what some ulama said is for the wisdom, the reason that the salat in the daytime is unheard and the salat in the nighttime is heard. And of course, Fajr, the same thing, is considered dark. So, people still have a level of sakina, such as at nighttime, tranquility, as opposed to the sun up in the daytime, dhuhr and asr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I thought that would be very beneficial, that issue of the praying, the salat that's audible, inaudible, and vice versa, because it was asked this question today and went and did a relatively thorough research, and this is what I came back with. So it's a great benefit for us to understand these issues. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in knowledge, to bless us and give us understanding, application of the religion. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his help and his safety. Ameen. The last place we left off in the Musanif, Imam Abdur Razaaq, Al-Baab al-Masha alayhima min al-Hadath, wiping over the footwear because you broke your state of purity. Wiping over the footwear because you broke your state of purity. Min al-Hadath. Hadath means you broke your wudu. You broke your wudu. قال Imam Abdur Razaaq rahimahullah ta'ala. On the Thawri, he narrates on the Thawri. Thawri, Mada Sufyan al-Thawri. We said many times, Sufyanaini, the two Sufyans. Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, as he narrates on him here, and also Imam Sufyan ibn Uyayna. Both of these are the shuyukh of Imam Abdur Razaaq. He narrates on Mada Sufyan al-Thawri wa Uyayna. Here Sufyan, yani Mada al-Thawri. As it relates to masaha, fi masaha ala khufayni, wiping over the khufayni. Khufayni, again, we can translate this into shoes, moccasins, footwear. That's what the khuf is, a leather moccasin. They had fur type and they had leather. Imam, yani Sufyan Abdur Razaaq narrates from Imam Sufyan. Imam Sufyan says, قال إذا أدخلهما طاهرتين. Once you put those footwear on 2 feet that are washed purely from wudu, he said, bima'in, yani bima'in hadith, because of something that you broke of your wudu, making your wudu, and now putting something on your feet. He said, فَإِنَّكَ تَمْسَحِ مِنَ الْحَدَثِ. Then you are allowed to wipe over those footwear the same way you did that time the next day. You have, in other words, 24-hour period to wipe over the footwear, so as long as you put them on when you have made the complete wudu. He said, and here this is Imam Sufyan, yani Thawri. He said, "Lo tawadda'u," if you were a person who have made wudu, min yani al-fajr, wa lam tuhdith, and you did not break your wudu, ila al-asr, until asr came of that same day, فَإِنَّكَ تَمْسَحْ عَلَيْهِمَا, then you are allowed to wipe over them. إِلَى الْأَصْرِ مِنَ الْغَدٍ, the asr 24 hours later. So from asr to asr. And he mentions the next narration, قال Abdur Razaaq and Abdullah ibn Mubarak. Abdullah ibn Mubarak, he narrates on the Shaykh Abdullah ibn Mubarak. قال, he said, Abdullah Mubarak, he said, حدثني عاصم ibn Sulaiman, حدثني, it was said to me by Asim ibn Sulaiman, and Abi Uthman al-Nahji, Abi Uthman al-Najji, he said, حضرت سعدا وابن Umar. He said, I was with Sa'ad, يعني Ibn Abi Waqqas and Ibn Umar, رضي الله تعالى عنهما, يغتصمان إلى الأمرة في مسح على خفين. So they were washing themselves, getting ready, bathing to go for the pilgrimage. Actually, they were going for Umrah, Afwan, for Umrah. So Umar, meaning Sa'd ibn Qala Umaru. He means to say Qala ibn Umar, because Ibn Umar and La. Qala Umaru. He's right. So Qala Umaru. So Umar said to them two, Ibn Umar and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. So you have 3 Sahaba. You have Umar ibn al-Khattab saying to Ibn Umar and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, who's taking the ghusl, getting ready to go for Umrah. So Umar says to them, he said, then you can wipe from the same time that you just wipe Yom wa Layli, 24 hours, a day and a night. Why did he mention that? Because Shaykh Masjid Arafat is going to mention that most of the fuqaha, meaning the scholars, with regards to fiqh, they say that the time for wiping, taqeed means the restriction for wiping starts at what? Yani, does it start the laps when you put them on, or mess? You have two things, putting on and wiping. When does the wiping stop? From the time that you put them on or from the time you wiped? He said, yani, all of the fuqaha said it starts from the time you put them on. So if you put them on in Fajr and you broke at Asr, you can't, in other words, go to the next Asr, the next day, wiping. You have to, at Fajr, stop wiping. That's what Jamil Fuqaha, Dhabil Hada, all of the ulama fiqh, that's what they have said. But Imam al-Nawawi opposed them all. Rajja, Imam al-Nawawi, he took the position. Rajjaha means that this is a position that a person leans towards. Rajjaha means that that person says is more likely this than that. So Rajjaha means you pick something, but you pick it because of the probability. Assalamu alaikum. You pick it because of its probability. So this, when the Shaykh said Rajjah, Imam al-Nawawi, يعني على أن التقييد يعني المس ليس من اللبس بل هو من المس. That the time that you can stop wiping is not from the time you put it on, but from the time you actually put it on and you wiped. From the time you put it on and you wipe. And what's the proof of Imam al-Nawawi? These athar that we use. These narrations in the Musanif of Imam Abdur Razaaq, as Sheikh Majdi Arafat mentions. So this is important to understand when you read the books. And you find that the ulama are saying, yani, from the time you put on, that this is a statement in the position they took, but it goes against the dalil. Similarly, which is, I'm jumping the gun, sway a little bit, but the parallel is paramount with regards to when you make wudu and what breaks the wudu. Many of them have said, if I make wudu and then I cut my nails right after that, then my wudu is broken because I cut off a part that I made wudu over, my nails. Or if I pull my hair or get a haircut after wudu, that breaks my wudu. But there's no dalil for that. There's no dalil. But they take these type of positions. Likewise, some have made the position, and we are jumping the gun swayer. If you were to make wudu, put the footwear on, the khuf, the sock, the sandal that covers the whole entire foot, the toes, the ankle, and the heel. And you were to not break wudu, but you took off that thing that you wiped over. You took it off. You wiped it Fajr, and then you took it off, but you didn't break wudu. Taking it off, they said again, broke your wudu. But we don't have a dalil for removing something that you put on or removing something that was purified, removing it, whether it be nails, hair, footwear, that you wiped over, breaks your wudu. Likewise, we don't have any text, any strong evidence, to say that the time from wiping starts from the time you put the thing on your foot rather than from the time that you wiped with the proper conditions now. So this, Mullah Mustan, is where we left off last time. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى من Abdur Razaaq, he mentions Baab al-Mas'ala Jarabaini wa Na'lain. Baab al-Mas'ha ala Jarabaini wa Na'lain. This is what we're taking tonight, inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala, briefly with billahi tawfiq. So Baab al-Mas'ha, the chapter of wiping ala Jarabaini, over the socks, wa Na'lain, and the sandal. Now this chapter is very important. One before was very important. This one is more, I would say, important because most people get the idea of just wiping over a shoe, a khuf. But the socks, there's a big argument about if the socks, if they're transparent, if they have a hole, what type of sock, can you wipe over cotton? Did they have cotton in time of the Prophet? If it's see-through or not, if the water goes through the sock, touches your skin, if the tear is bigger than a quarter. All of this is part of why this is very important. And Tabarak wa Ta'ala, the issue of the ka'b, which is we say, you have two parts of the ka'b in Arabic ka'b. You have a dakhil wal kharij, a dakhiliya wal kharijiyya. You have the inner part of the ka'b and the outer. So the inner part of the ka'b is the ankle. That's considered the ka'b dakhiliya. And in the ka'b kharijiyya, the outer part is the rest of that bone that's considered your heel. So you have the heel part, which is called ka'b, and the side parts, which is called ka'b, we call ankle. All of this must be covered when you talk about wiping over the na'lain, the sandal. Has to be that type of sandal. So this is very important, and the Imam is going to bring the author, rahimahullah ta'ala. Also, what's connected to the issue of wiping over the socks, jarabain wa na'lain, is mas'ala khimar, the Shaykh, he says, wa al-imama, the thing that the sheikh wears, some type of thing on the head like a kufi. All of that is generally under the umbrella of what will be discussed, and the ruling will carry over from the issue of wiping over the socks. Now, so the reason that this is important, because there's also an issue with regards to, do the ulama yanziluna al-jarabain fi mas'alat al-khufain? Do people take everything that's relevant to wiping over the khufs and just apply it to socks because it's something on the foot? Or do the scholars put them in two separate categories? That's 1A and B. 1A and B, just treat it like it's a khuf. It makes sense. No, this is separate because that's a khuf and this is a sock. So this is why this issue is so important to go over, as Shaykh mentioned. قال Abdur Razaaq rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam Abdur Razaaq As-San'ani, he says, he narrates an al-Thawri, Sufyan al-Thawri and al-Sibriqan, and Ka'b ibn Abdullah, and Ka'b ibn Abdullah, Ra'aytu aliyan, He said, I seen Ali. Ra'aytu. That means a person in the action. Ra'a, he's seen. Ra'ayta, you seen. Ra'ayti, you seen feminine. Ra'aytu, I seen. He said, Ra'aytu, I seen Aliyan. Aliyan. If you say Aliyun, that means Ali is doing something. You say Aliyan, then something came before Ali, such as Yani, a ba, or a fa, Yani, or an. But Aliyan means he's the one that you seen. Your eyes laid vision on that thing that has two fathatan, Aliyan. Ra'aytu Aliyan. I seen Ali. Bala فمسح على جربيه ونعليه. He said, Ali, I seen him go urine. Now here in the Arabic, it said, Ra'aytu Aliyan, yani, I seen Ali, Bala. So here, in Arabic, you have to understand some things are mahduf. They're implied but not written. They're implied but not said. You got to know the language in order to understand. So here, literally saying, Ra'aytu Aliyan Bala. I seen Ali, he peed. So it's like you're standing and watching him. But we know, hashadallah, that's haram. To look at a person's aura, to watch one another use the bathroom. What he means is that I seen Ali go to use the bathroom. Like a person goes in the stall, you know he's going to the bathroom. You don't watch him in the act. He goes behind a tree, behind some structure, but you don't watch him in the act. So he seen Ali go to urinate. Then when he finished, Ali made wudu and he wiped over his socks and his sandals. His socks and his sandals. So now, if we just stop there, if you have on socks, this shows that you can wipe over the socks. There's no condition mentioned here that they have to be out of wool. They have to be out of acrylic. They have to be out of cotton. There's no mention, just a jarabain, his two socks. He said, one na'alaini, and his two sandals, which indicates that he may have had socks on with the sandals. He may have had socks on with the sandals because the wow atafiyan. The wow here shows something is with the other thing. The wow here means and his sandals, meaning he had them on, so he wiped over them both. Meaning the sandals were on his feet, he wiped over his sandals, but the part of the sock that's not covered by the sandal, it's exposed. That's how far he wiped over the sandal up to he reached the sock. So imagine you have a sock on, two socks on, two sandals, and the sandals don't come above the ankle. They stop at the ankle. They don't come and cover the ankle. Or the sandals don't cover the ankle, neither the heel. As we said, ka means the ankle and the heel. But your socks are covering the ankle and the heel, then you will wipe from the front of the sandal where the toes are up over the part of the sock that is covering the ankle, and the heel. So that's one way to understand it from the perspective of Ali wiping over his socks and the sandals. Or it could mean that he had a type of sandal that did cover the ankle and the heel, and he still wiped over the sock or the sandal, meaning as he wiped, his hand touched the sock that was above the ankle and above the heel, while the sandal was a high type of sandal that covered the ankle and the heel. These are two ways to understand the narration, and you don't hear any conditions thus far. It said, ثُمَّ قَامَ وَصَلِّ ثُمَّ قَامَ وَصَلِّ. Then he stood and he prayed. Who stood and he prayed? Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So it shows you two things. that act of ablution and wiping was okay, and it was the condition that Ali needed to stand and pray, so he did that. وقال عبد الرزاق رحمه الله تعالى عن الثوري نعم عن الثوري narrates on Sufyan الثوري عن منصور عن منصور عن خالد ابن خالد ابن سعد خالد ابن سعد. He said, كان أبي مسعودا كان أبي مسعودا الأنصاري أبي مسعود الأنصاري كان يمسح. He used to wipe على الجربين. He used to wipe over his socks. Jarabain means socks. He used to wipe over his socks. He said, and he used to have, on his, this is a word that's mentioned, I don't understand. Then he says, not alayhi. He used to wipe over, the sock, like Ali and his, sandal. So it says, وقال Abdur Razaaq and the Thawri, keeps narrating on the Thawri, Sufyan al-Thawri, and Ibrahim al-Nakhai. Ibrahim al-Nakhai is from the Tabi'een that Abi Hanifa narrates on Allah, Ibrahim al-Nakhai. Ibrahim Nakhai narrates from the likes of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, Bala, let me go back. I messed that chain up. Go back. Tayyib. قال Imam Abdur Razaaq رحمه الله تعالى عن الثوري on Hisham ibn Ahidi ibn Aiden عن أخيه Hisham ibn Aiden عن أخيه. So Hisham ibn Aiden narrates on his brother عن أخيه Ibrahim al-Nakhai. Ibrahim al-Nakhai. His brother, Hisham ibn Aidin, narrates on Ibrahim al-Nakhai. He said, Bala wa nahnu anda. Bala wa nahnu anda. So the brother of Hisham ibn Aidin said that Ibrahim al-Nakhai bala wa nahnu anda. Ibrahim al-Nakhai from the Tabi'een urinated and we were together. So imagine we're somewhere and I say, I gotta go to the bathroom. You with me? I go to the bathroom. When he finished, he said, Ibrahim al-Nakhai masa ala jarabayhi. He made wudu and he wiped over his socks. Wa na'alayhi and his sandals, thumma Salla, and he prayed. Similar to the narration of Ali and Abi Talib and the others you heard before. Now, so one of the benefits the Shaykh says here is that Ibrahim al-Nakhai min Ahl al-Kufa. He's from the place that Abi Hanifa, and of course if Abi Hanifa is from the students of Ibrahim al-Nakhai, then they were together in Kufa. And if Ibrahim al-Nakhai is from the students of Abdullah ibn Abbas, then where does that place Abdullah ibn Abbas? In Kufa. Now, so after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, Abdullah ibn Abbas was one of those who migrated to Kufa. Now, I made a mistake. Not Abdullah ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud, not Abdullah ibn Abbas. غلط علي. Abdullah ibn Abbas كان في مكة. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud كان في خوفة. هذا غلط علي. So, let me go back and retract and fix all of that. Ibrahim al-Nakhai meant تلاميذ Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mada al-Mas'ud. The one said, I was with the Prophet when 70 surah were revealed. I know where they were revealed, why they were revealed, what they mean. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud that said, if lahwal hadith in Surah Al-Luqman is not ma'azif, singing and musical instruments, he said, then I don't know what it is. And he swore by Allah, it is that which is musical instruments and singing. That's Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, not Ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who Ibrahim al-Nakhai was the student of. So Ibrahim al-Nakhai was in Kufa, and that Ibrahim ibn Nakhai is also from the shuyukh of Abi Hanifa, and Ibrahim al-Nakhai is from the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, not Abbas, Mas'ud. So they were in Kufa. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Ibrahim al-Nakhai, and of course Abi Mada Hanifa bin Nu'man, Nu'man bin Bashir bin Nu'man, Abi Hanifa bin Nu'man, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. Amma Abdullah ibn Abbas, هو من أهل مكة كالمجاهد نعم والطاووس بن قيسان. They remained in Mecca. They're from the ulama of Mecca. أما إبراهيم النخعي وكذلك أبي حنيفة وشيخ والصحابي الجليل من شيوخ إبراهيم النخعي هو عبد الله ابن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنهم أجمعين. And we'll stop at this point, inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala. So, sallallahu ala nabiyina Muhammad.